So the best metaphor I can think of what it's like to start and build a startup is it's like sprinting a marathon, which sounds like a paradox. You're either sprinting or you're pacing yourself to run a marathon. But with a startup, it's not like that. You're going all out all the time, and it never stops. The moment you take your foot off the gas, especially when you're starting out, all progress stops. And so you have to find a way to have this balance where you're constantly going all out, but do it in a way that is sustainable. So there's an aspect of mental toughness that's obviously required. You need to be able to push through those times where you just don't want to do it, or it seems too difficult, or it seems too overwhelming, while also having a sense of enjoyment, enough enjoyment and passion for that vision so that you can go through without losing your mind. Because the most common cause of failure is founders giving up. A lot of time people say that a startup fails when it runs out of money. Technically, that's not true, because you can keep going if you're the person doing it, especially if you're working on a software startup, or you're working with some sort of media like music, or you're a creator of some sort of anything that you're the one working and building in the product. It's really a matter of your own motivation. And so you have to enjoy it enough to want to continue when it's tough, yet have the mental toughness to push through when enjoyment in and of itself doesn't get you through. You have to have both of those things. And oftentimes, even if you are a solo founder, which I am, you're not the only person, or you won't be able to do it all alone. And I've talked a little bit about this before, but it takes a support system that understands that same philosophy. You need people who are willing to be real with you, who are willing to call you out and say, this is not good enough, flat out. You don't want people who are going to make you feel better and say, oh yeah, this is great, when it's not. That's the most deadly thing, because you start to rest and think things are going well when they're really not. You need people who are willing to call you out, say, you need to improve this. But at the same time, when you do something well, or when you're down on yourself and you shouldn't be, they need to be there to pick you up. And so striking that balance and finding the people around you who have that sense of what you actually need and when you need it is incredibly important to sustain yourself throughout the journey. I guess one final note, I think it's incredibly important to think of, you have to have grand plans. If you don't have a grand vision, you're not going to want to do it after a while. You're going to, at some point when it gets tough, probably at a lot of points when it gets tough, wonder to yourself, why am I even doing this? What's the end game? If everything goes right, if everything goes to plan, is this even worth it? Because this is really, really hard. You have to keep your mind on that grand vision, having something grand enough that if it does work out is well worth all of that effort. But while keeping one eye on that, also having one eye on the most minute details. So literally, what are the things we need to get done this week, today, this hour, right now? Because if you lose sight of that and just always focus on the larger vision, you'll never get anything done. If you only focus on the absolute right now, eventually you're going to give up motivation. You're just going to get stuck in the, grind. And so I think it's incredibly important to keep that balance of both. I think the people who do well, the teams who do well, have that balance. And yeah, I recommend to anybody working on an endeavor that's worth pursuing and is challenging to keep those things in mind. So what did I do this week? Well, first I cleaned up some of the video player leaks. What that is, let's say you open up a video player, you're playing some clips and you navigate away or you dismiss that clips player, sometimes the audio would continue playing, which obviously is not the ideal experience. And so I need to make sure, because we're working with a couple different frameworks, it's a little tricky, but I made sure to pause all of those players, or stop all those players entirely if they're dismissed or if you navigate away from them. The second thing I did was add some fun as well as usability to the sign up. So if your first name fits the criteria, 3 or more letters, last name 3 or more letters, username 3 or more characters, and unique, you'll get a little confirmation icon. Again, something that's not only fun but also useful, so that the user can see in real time, am I signing up right? So what am I going to work on this week? The first is some more usability, which is swiping to go back. So a quick swipe to the right. If you use any social app, you'll realize that if you have that swipe to the right, you can go back to the previous page. That's not a native behavior. That's something that you have to kind of manually implement. And so I'm going to work on that. Pull to refresh. So if you're on a certain page, you want to get the newest, freshest data, you pull to refresh. So I'll implement that as well. And then finally, there have been some instances where some of the people who were testing the app have tried to record videos and their sound is not coming through. Even if their mute is not turned on, which shouldn't affect it, and volume is up, which shouldn't affect it. And it has enabled microphone, which should be the only thing that matters. Still, that mute issue is coming out. So I want to kind of identify what is causing that issue, get to the bottom of that, and ultimately solve it. I'll leave one other wild card just in case I have more time. But as always, like, subscribe, tell your friends about this. I hope you're enjoying the journey. I certainly am. And looking forward to next week.